Is it Armageddon 2000 for James Conner? The end is near. So you got a young guy, you got an old guy. I usually tend to go with the young guys in those backfields, but you can't quite rank it that way. You can't really project it that way when you're talking about the Arizona backfield, because James Conner has been really good for them for the last couple of years. Been just a touchdown machine for this offense. Trey McBride was a third-round pick. I don't necessarily expect him to just take over right off the jump. So when we get to draft season, it may be one of those situations where if you draft Trey Benson, show a little bit of patience, maybe you can't start him right away, but you'll be excited about him as soon as maybe week 3 or 4. It really wouldn't surprise me at all if we're talking about Trey Benson taking over this Arizona backfield very quickly. He is probably one of my favorite sleeper running backs this season. But James Conner, kind of in that older running back model, not one I'm real excited about, but he is one who's going to come out pretty decently in projections. So let's take a look at how the projections shook out here for James Conner. They ended up with 858 rushing yards with 6.5 touchdowns, 23 receptions for 145 yards, just the one receiving touchdown, 199 carries though, so still a very significant workload for James Conner in this Arizona offense. I do have the touchdowns coming down quite a bit from what they've been for James Conner the last few years. He's been double digits in touchdowns recently. He's really just been a red zone machine for the Arizona Cardinals. I have a hard time seeing that continue though, because of the health of Kyler Murray and also the emergence of Trey Benson as a rookie. James Conner really hasn't had anybody else in his backfield to compete with him over the last couple of seasons. I expect that to fully change. So therefore, when I was doing my projections, this is where the art meets the science a little bit, right? I could not give him as high of a touchdown percentage as what he has had in recent past, but of course I'm not going to totally crater it because he has been really good around the goal line. But with the return of Kyler Murray, I had to bring that down a little bit. So that's how I ended up with just 6.5 touchdowns for James Conner. Now, Trey Benson on the other side of things, I gave him 578 rushing yards, 3.6 rushing touchdowns, 25 receptions, which actually felt pretty low. But that's because Kyler Murray doesn't really throw to his running backs much at all. And so that was a big factor in that. Their target share actually was a little bit higher last season than what I gave it to this season for running backs because of the Kyler Murray factor, as well as Kyler just being able to run more this year. So just 1.5 receiving touchdowns for Trey Benson as well. One thing that projections really have a hard time capturing though is breakout potential or handcuff value, right? So with a guy like Trey Benson, that's a great candidate of a guy who I can see just taking this job and running with it, or if James Conner were to get injured, Trey Benson catapults up the rankings, right? We see this all the time where the starting running back goes down, all of a sudden the backup, because he's kind of got the backfield to himself, he now becomes ranked as like a top 7 running back. That's exactly how I see this thing potentially going for Trey Benson. Projections are just really hard to be able to, put that on a spreadsheet, right? So that's where rankings and projections don't always click together. So for Trey Benson, those projections aren't the most kind. However, in rankings, I'm a little bit nicer about it. I've got Trey Benson ranked 31st among running backs, and I want to push him even higher. I just couldn't quite justify it with the workload. Fantasy Pros has him at 40th. ESPN has him all the way now at 45, and CBS at 34. So they're closer to me there at CBS. These, by the way, are PPR rankings. And if you want to see the full list of rankings in an updated version of rankings, I'm recording this in mid-May right now. So go to the community tab in another tab right now, and you can check out my updated rankings at all times. I always have rankings posted on there. And you can kind of see where these rankings sit at right now. Those are going to get updated through this whole summer as I continue working through these projections, as I continue to learn more information about these players too. We're going to get into training camp before long, and we're going to be learning a bunch of news that way. Also, there could be trades, there could be signings that happen after I do these projections as well. So that's a factor too for these guys. As for the old guy, James Conner, I have him at running back 27. I'm not really all that into James Conner. I have him pretty darn close to Trey Benson, quite frankly. And I'm lower on him than consensus. Fantasy Pros him at 22, ESPN 21, and CBS actually has him right there with me again at 26. CBS and me definitely kind of seem aligned on our philosophy here as far as the Arizona backfield goes. I think that he's going to lose this job. He's going to get beat up by the rookie. Maybe he gets injured. This is just not an archetype of running back I'm really all that excited about. The one thing that could really help out James Conner, though, is if this Arizona offense does take off and be really good. And that would be spearheaded by Kyler Murray. So check out this video right now on Kyler Murray and where I have his projections as he comes back from that torn ACL.